we're just going to get right into it because the news that we're dealing with right now is extremely serious. From the very beginning, we were very critical of Donald Trump's foreign policy moves since they were the epitome of establishment neoconservative doctrine being carried out by Donald Trump from his predecessors George W. Bush and Barack Obama. There was no significant difference, and today's latest news is not a shock to me and shouldn't be to you if you have been following this YouTube channel. Today is April 6, 2017, 100 years to the date when the United States entered World War I, and today the United States unequivocally waged war without the approval of Congress on the Syrian government by launching 50 to 60 Tomahawk cruise missiles against Syrian government forces, leaving many people to fear the possibility of World War III being started today, and they are not wrong. We are hearing reports that the United States just raised their alert level to DEFCON 2, which is the next step to nuclear war, where armed forces are ready to deploy and engage in less than 6 hours. And as U.S. missiles are raining down on Syrian government forces, we are hearing reports that the United States warned China and Russia of this impending attack. This, of course, holds great significance since the Chinese government and Russian government have backed, supplied, and supported the Syrian government forces previously before. But now we are hearing conflicting reports from Russian sources saying that the United States didn't inform Russian military forces who were on the ground in Syria of this latest attack. We're hearing that Russia tried to shoot down these Tomahawk missiles with their missile defense systems that they set up in Syria, and reports indicating that at least one Russian pilot was killed and several Russian jets were destroyed by these U.S. missiles. We are getting confirming reports that Russian personnel were positioned at the base that the United States struck with Tomahawk missiles. Now, the exact information of casualties and collateral damage by these U.S. missiles is still unknown, but we will find out in the near future. But what we do know for a fact is that last year, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, has declared that any attack on the Syrian government is an attack on Russia. Russia did their best to prevent this attack, threatening Donald Trump with negative consequences if he decided to strike Syria, and he has done so, and we are waiting on the reply from the Russian government to see the obvious escalation of this global conflict. The United States is not backing down, as Secretary of State Tillerson has said that it was Russia's fault and responsibility for the United States' actions. And as a similar event unfolded just a few weeks ago when the Israeli government came in and bombed pro-government Syrian forces, the Syrian government struck back and shot down Israeli warplanes, leading Russia to intervene and make a very clear statement telling Israel to back down or face a wider conflict with the Russian government. The Israelis have backed down after Russia issued its statement, but now today's latest actions again make the current situation in Syria and the potential for a global conflict more disastrous than it has ever been before. We have told you before, Trump's actions inside of Syria with trying to establish a safe zone, a no-fly zone, him creating a quagmire between the Turks and the Kurds, Donald Trump also aligning with Saudi Arabia while making Iran the enemy, while bombing Yemen, was a major break from his campaign promise and would eventually lead to this disastrous situation that the United States is involved in now. Now, Donald Trump's justification for this latest military strike on the Syrian government is because of a questionable Syrian chemical weapons attack that even our elected representatives are questioning the legitimacy of. Many have pointed out that this was a false flag attack and made no sense at all, since Ron Paul, former congressman and statesman, said, and I quote, "Does anyone believe that on the eve of peace talks, just after the White House said the Syrian people should choose their own leaders, that Assad would launch a gas attack to turn the whole world against him? We're back to the same lies that got us into Iraq. Do we never learn to question the propaganda?" And then Donald Trump, without any investigation, without any evidence, used this chemical weapons attack as his Gulf of Tonkin incident as a way to justify U.S. intervention and bombing campaign of a foreign government. A horrible, disgusting action that has been pushed by John McCain, Hillary Clinton, and the mainstream media. And then lockstep and barrel, they collaborated and worked together and called for these airstrikes to happen. And then Donald Trump carried out the establishment neoconservative Hillary Clinton doctrine and entangled us in another foreign conflict, with only the cheers and praise from Saudi Arabia, Netanyahu, the neoconservatives, John McCain, Hillary Clinton, and of course the mainstream media, which is now praising him and giving him the best coverage he has had during his entire presidency. The doctrine and agenda is clear. Even Marie Le Pen is asking what is wrong with Donald Trump, creating a same path as those who invaded Iraq. You have to understand, Barack Obama tried to bomb Syrian government forces all the way back in 2013, and only because of a critical independent media, which we don't have now. But in 2013, it was the alternative media media, it was the protesters, it was people in the streets who stopped President Barack Obama from doing what Donald Trump has just carried out himself. Donald Trump even tweeted in 2013, quote, "What will we get for bombing Syria besides more debt and a possible long-term conflict? Obama needs congressional approval." He said on a separate incident, again, "To our very foolish leader, do not attack Syria. If you do, many very bad things will happen, and from that fight, the U.S. gets nothing." He even warned of the possibilities of World War III if the United States carried out Barack Obama's policy, which he just committed to. So even Donald Trump deep down knows his latest actions could spark an entire global conflict, could spark World War III, and he's still committed to it. Launching an attack on a secular government that protects minorities, that protects Christians, that has been fighting against radical Islamic terrorists and ISIS for years now, that the United States has been secretly funding. All, of course, with the help of Israel and Saudi Arabia, which now Donald Trump is in allegiance with, against Iran, against Yemen, against Syria, against Russia, and of course China as well. He did this without congressional approval and no self-defense pretense. What he just did is not only just extremely dangerous, but illegal and needs to be impeached immediately. The events that just unfolded today will have grave repercussions for the United States, for the entire world in the upcoming future. We will be covering this conflict very closely here on youtube.com/wearechange. As the situation develops, as we're getting more news, as we're getting more information, expect it here and on wearechange.org. If you want to support our efforts and support real independent media that has been critical of Donald Trump and not just cheerleading, holding water for him, kissing his butt like all the other people in this sphere that have turned around 180 degrees and have not been critical of his moves that led up to this, support us on patreon.com/wearechange. Because truly, we are here beyond partisan lines, giving you the truth, letting you know exactly what is happening without any bias, without any agenda, unlike all those other alternative media outlets that have failed you to warn you about this.